1 month ago, the heads of 3 major universities were dragged in front of Congress to testify about what they were doing to combat anti-Semitism on college campuses. The failure of the 3 to condemn genocide as a bad thing led to so much backlash that now 2 of the 3 have resigned in disgrace. Let's celebrate. I'm Tyler Chrestman. Welcome to the Chrestman Conversation. Okay, so as I said in the intro, we are going to be talking today about a little bit about the rise of anti-Semitism on college campuses, but more we're going to focus on some other things, mostly talking about DEI and Claudine Gay, who is the now former president of Harvard. There's a reason I wanted to talk about this today. This topic has been very important to me for a long time. The concept of free speech on college campuses it's one of the first things that I ever wrote about. You can go back, you can look up an article I wrote, I believe it was in 2016, it could have been 2015 though, where I talked about Allen West giving a speech on SLU's campus. So there's an article I have called Allen West and the Centering of Free Speech. It's one of the first things I ever wrote and put up on the internet. And like I said, I think that was about 8 years ago, something like that. And at the time, everyone didn't really understand the problem on college campuses when it came to freedom of speech, when it came to freedom of expression. I kind of saw it coming. And a lot of people accuse me. They would say, this is my boogeyman. This is something that doesn't really exist. These kids are going to graduate. They're going to grow up. They're going to go off and live their lives and grow up in the adult world. And I wasn't so convinced. And I think, as with most things on the Chrestman Conversation, I have been proven right with time that this was always a problem. It's always been a problem. And now we're just seeing the fruits of that problem, or the flowers bear fruit, as it is. It's coming full circle, where now you're seeing these people who, like myself, considered themselves good liberals, who are looking at kids today and saying, what the hell is wrong with these kids? What is wrong with this generation that they think that Hamas is a good thing? Anyway, that's a little bit off topic, but it kind of touches on the topic that we're going to get into. So that's why this is important to me. I want to jump, though, to the present time and talk about Claudine Gay. Now, for those of you who don't know, Claudine Gay was one of the 3 university presidents who went before Congress on December 5th of last year to testify about what they were doing to combat anti-Semitism. There were 3 major universities represented at this hearing. You had Claudine Gay, who's the president of Harvard. You had Liz McGill, who is the president of the University of Pennsylvania. And you also had, and we're not going to really talk about her, but you had a 3rd president from MIT. So MIT, University of Pennsylvania, and Harvard. You're talking the most elite institutions in the country. Now, the reason why this became national news is because these 3 people who are at the heights of academia, the leaders of what people would consider the most elite institutions in the world, the Ivy League, the people in the ivory tower, right? These people who are supposed to know things, they came across like morons, and they came across like really bad people. And we're going to demonstrate that. We're going to play a couple clips because we always like to come with receipts on the Chrestman Conversation. And when we play them, I want you to keep in mind that there are issues with what these people say, and I'm going to get into that after I play the clips, but I want you to just listen to them first. We'll listen to them first, and then we will get into some other stuff. So we're first going to play, this is Elise Stefanik. She's a representative from New York, and it was her turn to question. These are the ones that really blew up. So we're going to talk about these ones first. This is her questioning. This is McGill.
Ms. McGill, at Penn, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Penn's rules or code of conduct? Yes or no?
If the speech turns into conduct, it can be harassment, yes.
I am asking, specifically calling for the genocide of Jews, does that constitute bullying or harassment?
If it is directed and severe or pervasive, it is harassment.
So the answer is yes.
It is a context-dependent decision, Congresswoman.
It's a context-dependent decision. That's your testimony today. Calling for the genocide of Jews is depending upon the context. That is not bullying or harassment. This is the easiest question to answer yes, Ms. McGill. So is your testimony that you will not answer yes?
If it if the
Yes
speech
or no?
becomes, if the speech becomes conduct, it can be harassment, yes.
Conduct meaning committing the act of genocide? The speech is not harassment? This is unacceptable, Ms. McGill. I'm going to give you one more opportunity for the world to see your answer. Does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Penn's code of conduct when it comes to bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
It can be harassment.
The answer is yes.
Okay, so that was Liz McGill. She is the former president of the University of Pennsylvania. And for those of you who are just listening, it might be hard to picture what's going on here. This woman is smirking and being so smug. It's just despicable. Talking about whether or not calling for the genocide of Jews is a bad thing. And she says, well, if it becomes targeted, if it's bullying or harassing, blah, blah, blah. And she's smirking the whole time. She thinks she's condescending and just looks vile. So picture like the Wicked Witch of the West with a shit-eating grin on her face answering these questions, and you kind of got a picture of what's going on. Now, let's play Claudine Gay's answer to the same question from Elise Stefanik.
And Dr. Gay, at Harvard, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Harvard's rules of bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
It can be, depending on the context.
What's the context?
Targeted as an individual, at an individual.
It's targeted at Jewish students, Jewish individuals. Do you understand your testimony is dehumanizing them? Do you understand that dehumanization is part of anti-Semitism? I will ask you one more time. Does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Harvard's rules of bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
Anti-Semitic rhetoric.
And is it anti-Semitic rhetoric?
Anti-Semitic rhetoric when it crosses into conduct that amounts to bullying, harassment, intimidation, that is actionable conduct, and we do take action.
So the answer is yes, that calling for the genocide of Jews violates Harvard Code of Conduct, correct?
Again, it depends on the context.
It does not depend on the context. The answer is yes, and this is why you should resign. These are unacceptable answers across the board.
Okay, so first of all, good on Elise Stefanik. I was not really familiar with her before, but she did a good job with those questions back in December. And I think it's important to realize a couple things here, because a couple things can exist at once. Now, this is the difficult part. Calling for genocide. Let's say we did one on Palestine and Israel a little bit ago, so we can go back to talking about the calling from the river to the sea. Okay? So this is a phrase that many Jewish people, and I also myself, would say is anti-Semitic and anti-Israel and a call for genocide. From the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea. Okay? This means the entire state of Israel should be wiped out. Should people have the right to say that? My opinion is yes. My opinion is yes, you should have the right to chant that, and even though you're an idiot and an anti-Semite, you should have the right to chant that. I am a free speech absolutist. I believe in free speech. Here's the problem. Now, if Claudine Gay and Liz McGill were people who actually believed in free speech, I would kind of be on their side and say, yes, you have the right to say terrible things as long as it's not targeted at an individual and you're not threatening a person. If you're not saying, hey, we're going to kill you, hey, we should kill you, we should do this. If you're using phrases like from the river to the sea, or if you're saying that Israel shouldn't exist, again, bad. Should you have the right to say it? Yes. The problem is, and the reason why I'm not on their side in this argument, is that Liz McGill and Claudine Gay do not believe in free speech. Harvard is the worst university in the country for free speech protection. They are not believers in free speech, except apparently when it comes to hating Jewish people. And then they're all about it. They love free speech. If you are on the campus of University of Pennsylvania or Harvard and you misgender a student, if you commit a microaggression against another student, if you ask someone from a different country where they're from, these are things that are actionable offenses at Harvard that have been taken up by Harvard. I don't remember what they call it. Their little criminal court in Harvard. They have a thing where students can go and just be basically put on trial. But these are things that have been brought up. Misgendering people, the microaggressions, asking people where they're from, any sort of borderline conduct that Harvard deems inappropriate. They will kick you out of school. What was the name? Oh, I'm going to forget his name. There was a student, one of the Parkland students, who was a conservative, who was accepted to Harvard, who then got rescinded because it turns out when he was like 13 or 14, he had said him in a group chat, said some mean things, some maybe racist things, and they rescinded it. And you say, okay, that's their right. They can do that. They don't have to accept him into college. That's fine. But let's not pretend that Claudine Gay actually believes in free speech, what she's saying. Oh, well, when it's actionable conduct, when it's actually targeted and it's harassment and it's this and that, we'll take action. No. She doesn't believe in free speech. None of these people believe in free speech. They're the same kind of people who would work at the New York Times and get all upset because Tom Cotton gets to publish an op-ed. These are the same kind of people who don't let people like Alan West or Ben Shapiro or Michael Knowles or any of those guys, they don't let them tour. They don't want them to come to their college campuses. They don't believe in free speech. So I don't believe them, and I'm glad that people were upset about this. Liz McGill, the first lady, the smirking, condescending, terrible person that she is, she resigned basically the following week because people were that upset with her. A donor pulled a $100 million pledge from the university, and Liz McGill was forced to resign as the president. Harvard, though, the board chose to stand behind Claudine Gay. They said, no, we support her. She issued an op-ed where she kind of walked back, said, oh my gosh, how silly of me not to say genocide's a bad thing. I should have done that at some point, probably. And so she looked like she was going to keep her job. Now, in reality, let's be real. Liz McGill lost her job because she did a terrible job at this hearing, and she was white. That's why she lost her job. That's just the way it looks from the outside. Claudine Gay kept her job because she's a black woman, and the DEI runs strong through Harvard. And the reason why I can say this with confidence is because of what happened after this. If she would have just held on, okay, no big deal. She didn't lose her job, even though she probably should have, because that was embarrassingly bad for someone who's supposed to be smart. But in the weeks that have followed, Claudine Gay has been hit with so many examples of plagiarism from her academic past. First of all, I didn't know much about this woman. I don't really care about this woman, except that she runs a major institution that's making people who are supposed to be smart dumber. So I care about her in that aspect. But I don't care about Claudine Gay. This video was bad. And the not being able to say genocide's a bad thing is also bad. But, okay, whatever, she gets to keep her job. Then the plagiarism starts. The plagiarism accusations. And you learn a lot about Claudine Gay. For example, she is the top person at Harvard. She has 11 papers that she's ever published. 11 academic papers. That's for someone who's supposed to be an academic, that's embarrassingly small. That's like what an average grad student might do in a year. What, you're a doctor? Dr. Claudine Gay, and you only have 11 papers published? That seems silly. And it turns out a lot of them are, they're just straight up stolen from people who are much smarter than her. So 700 members of Harvard staff signed a letter in support of Claudine Gay. She's going to hold on to her job. Then the plagiarism starts, and it's just egregious. Look at this. Look at these examples I'm going to show. This is not going to be great for the audio only, but for the people who watch the video, look at these. So there's a website. This is the Washington Free Beacon, where they highlight Claudine Gay's words and other people's words. This is basically an entire paragraph, just ripped verbatim from Bradley Palmquist and Stephen Voss. Then we scroll down, another one from, look at this, all this is highlighted in red. These are just the exact same words that are used in somebody else's paper. We scroll down a little bit more. David Coven, maybe? That's how I pronounce the last name. Look at this. 2 paragraphs just ripped straight from his work. The entire thing is highlighted red. George Reed Andrews, again, an entire paragraph just ripped straight from his, whatever he wrote. Or how about this one? Or finds Jacob Beecroft, blah, blah, blah. There's like 18 people listed here. Look at this. This is an entire thing. 4 paragraphs, 4 bullet points, just ripped straight from it and put in her own work. Alex F. Schwartz, two sentences straight from his work. Matthew Freeman and Emily Owens, again, another paragraph just ripped straight from their work. So this woman, she just is a liar. She's a liar. She's a plagiarist. And yet she still kept her job. She still kept her job. Despite all of this, Harvard still fought to keep her. Now, again, she was the first black president of Harvard. And I really think that is a big reason. Harvard didn't want her to have to resign in disgrace as the first black president. I get it. You don't want it. It's a bad look. You don't want it. I understand. Harvard said that Gay was going to have to issue corrections to her PhD dissertation from 1997 because of, and this is their quote, inadequate citations. That's the quote from the Harvard board. Oh, it's not that she's a plagiarist. She just had inadequate citations. She forgot some quotation marks and some footnotes and some citations, but it's just inadequate. It's fine. This came after she had already corrected 2 earlier articles that she wrote in the 2000s, and she had to issue more because more kept coming out. This is all, by the way, courtesy of Christopher Rufo and the Washington Free Beacon. Great job on this. The plagiarism, it runs deep. This, by the way, is straight from the Harvard website on a page called Harvard University Plagiarism Policy. It says, quote, "When you fail to cite your sources or when you cite them inadequately, you are plagiarizing, which is taken extremely seriously at Harvard. Students who, for whatever reason, submit work either not their own or without clear attribution to its sources will be subject to disciplinary action up to and including requirement to withdraw from the college." Now, they stood behind her. They said, she's just going to issue corrections. She's going to do this. She didn't mean to, guys. She didn't mean to. This is Claudine Gay we're talking about. She would not. She's not a plagiarist. She just inadequately cited some things. She forgot some footnotes. She forgot how to use quotation marks in her doctoral dissertation. But, that's no big deal because she's Claudine Gay. She can't be bad. She's the first black president of Harvard. She can't have done something wrong. Not being able to say that genocide's a bad thing, that could have happened to anyone. Because a lot of people forget in the moment that genocide's bad. Okay? It's like, yes, she believes in free speech. You should be able to criticize the Jews, but no conservative should be allowed to be on Harvard's board. That's ridiculous. Okay? It's crazy talk. So, no, I don't believe her. Listen, by the way, that was sarcasm. I remember a couple weeks ago when Roseanne Barr got in trouble because she tried to deny that the Holocaust existed in a very, very sarcastic rant. So maybe I have to be very careful with my sarcasm. Claudine Gay she comes across like an idiot and an immoral person. She's a plagiarist, which makes her a liar. And so she should have been fired immediately, and she definitely should have been fired and not allowed to resign. She resigned her presidency at Harvard. She gets to keep her faculty position. She makes $900,000 a year as a faculty member. So they're going to pay her almost $1 million a year as a liar, a person who's never published any serious academic work, and as a gigantic embarrassment to the DEI infrastructure at Harvard, but she gets to keep her job because some reason. Now, there are people out there who seem to think that her firing is a bad thing. They're wrong, obviously, but they seem to think it is. Let's quote Al Sharpton. Al Sharpton, who said, "An assault on the health, strength, and future of diversity, equity, and inclusion," when he was talking about her departure. Let's hope, for the first time, let's hope Al Sharpton is correct, that this is an assault on the health, strength, and future of diversity, equity, and inclusion. The DEI infrastructure is a cancer in the university system, and it needs to be dismantled. This is just the first step. You've seen guys like Bill Ackerman and Chris Rufo who promise they are going to develop an AI software. They are going to get out there and they are going to audit these Ivy League institutions. They are going to do a plagiarism audit. And I hope that they're successful. I hope that they out all of these liars, all of these charlatans who pretend to know things and don't, who they just go, they get their degrees, then they massage each other on the back, and they get these cushy teaching positions where they make kids dumber, which is all the Ivy League seems to be doing these days, making kids dumber. Smart kids can be just as dumb as anyone else. It's about what you're taught. It's about what you know, and they don't know anything. This is the most ignorant generation that has ever lived, ever. They don't read books. They don't know anything, and they've been indoctrinated by a bunch of people who also don't know anything or know the wrong things, believe that they're smart and know nothing. And that's a gigantic problem. The reason why I'm celebrating her departure is because I really do hope that institutions like Harvard and Yale and Stanford and MIT and the University of Pennsylvania, I believe in these institutions. I believe they should exist and could do good, but they have gotten so far off the track. They are so concerned with things that they shouldn't be concerned with. Anything that it started with silly shit that people didn't care about. It started with trigger warnings. That's what it started with. It started with microaggressions. That's where it started. But it's not there anymore. We have progressed beyond that because now it's not about just protecting people's feelings. Now it's about completely giving the wrong worldview to the next generation. It is about indoctrinating them into a cult of make-believe. And these people think they're the good guys. There are people out there who will sit there and they are on Hamas's side today because they think Israel's bad, because all they know is a leftist worldview that says power is bad, Israel has power, they're bad. That's all it is. In the simplest form, that's what they believe. They think the Palestinians are poor, therefore they're good. It is so backwards and misguided that the people who Hamas would murder, they would rape and torture and behead in the street, are out there marching on their side. It's so and that all stems from the same place. It starts with DEI is not about diversity. This is the first thing people need to understand. So when we talk about dismantling DEI, which is what needs to be done, and I'm hoping that this is a step in the right direction, it's not because someone's anti-diversity. It's the second letter. It's the second letter that you have to watch out for, equity. Equity is bad. People hear this and they mistake what it means. Equity is bad. Equality good, equity bad. Because what does that mean? Equality of opportunity is fantastic. It is the bedrock. It should be the bedrock for our civilization. You should not put up barriers to prevent people from getting in based on their race or their sex or their religion or whatever. Those barriers should not exist, and when they do exist, we should knock them down with a wrecking ball. Equity, on the other hand, is not good. Equity is a Marxist term that does not mean what you think it means. Whenever somebody uses equity, they are pushing a Marxist ideology that says that outcomes should be equal. And you know that the only way to get equal outcomes is through evil measures. So Claudine Gay going, when Al Sharpton says this is a threat to DEI everywhere, I hope he's right. I hope he's right, and I hope it is, because DEI is a bad thing. Ron DeSantis dismantling it in the University of Florida system That's great, or trying to at least. People don't understand. This is the problem. This is the problem in our society right now, is that these people, they use useful idiots like kids on college campuses who don't know anything, and people who think diversity is good. Diversity is fine. No one cares. I don't know. I know a lot of conservatives. I don't know a conservative who cares about someone's race. They are using you to pretend that conservatives hate diversity. No one cares about diversity. It doesn't matter to most people. And the people who it does matter to hold no power. There's not a politician in Washington who is against diversity. If the meritocracy is true, which it should be, then the best person should get the best job. That is the way it should work. I don't care who that person is. It doesn't matter to me. You could be a straight, white, Christian male. I don't care. You could be a Taiwanese little person with an amputation. And I don't care. If you're the best person for that job, it doesn't matter. Who cares? No one. No one that I know would argue against that. But they use diversity to sneak in equity, because equity is how you push your agenda. Because equity is where you make the laws and you make the policies that make it so that people lose freedom. Because in order to get equal outcomes, you have to either discriminate against people and prevent them from getting somewhere, or force other people to do things they don't want to do. That's the only way. Because human beings are not equal across the board. It doesn't work like that. If you take any two groups of people, it doesn't matter what they are. It doesn't matter what nationality, doesn't matter what gender, doesn't matter the religion. If you take any two groups of people, they are not going to be equal across the board in all areas. And it's just true for anything at any time, whether it's men and women, white and black, black and Hispanic, Hispanic and Asian. No one is going to be the same. And that's okay, because some people are going to do better in some categories, and some people are going to do worse in some categories, and in other categories it's going to be different. It's just the way it is. You cannot force human beings to be the same. Claudine Gay's resignation is a step in the right direction, because putting a dent in any sort of DEI at any university is a good thing. And I hope that it continues. Anyway, we're going to stop there today, because I could just go on this rant for hours and hours and hours. But we're going to stop there today. Let's all take a moment and celebrate. And let's hope that this is a step in the right direction, because holding universities to account is important. It is, because as much as we want to pretend that universities are not driving forces in the world, they are. These people who graduate the Ivy League, they are the people in power. Our Supreme Court justices are Ivy Leaguers. Our politicians, large part, go to the Ivy League. It's just the way it is. And it used to be because smart people went to the Ivy League. I saw something recently that said that the average IQ for people who went to universities, it used to be 115. And now it's down to about 100, because we've lowered the requirements. So going to a university it doesn't mean anything anymore, because it used to be that smart people went to university and now everyone goes. And because we've increased the acceptance rate for universities, what we've done is we've lowered the requirements and everyone goes to college. It just means that the average person goes to college. And people have average middling intelligence. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. It's just the way it is. It used to be that we used to think people who went to universities were smart. And now it's just, they're not necessarily. And the same is true with the Ivy League. We have watered down. So, someone graduated from Harvard, it used to mean something. It used to mean you were smart. It doesn't mean that anymore. And I hope this is a step to restoring that's what it could mean. That if you went somewhere that was like MIT, that it meant you were smart. And we need to get that back, because if you lose the American university system entirely, people don't come here the same. It's a driving force for why people come to this country, and we need to keep it that way. Anyway, I'm leaving it there for the day. As always, I'm Tyler Chrestman. I will catch you guys on the next episode.